And now, in this moment, I invite each and every one of you to take a nice, deep, cleansing breath in, breathing in all the love and light that surrounds you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath in, breathing in the cool, calming oxygen that is in this day. And as you breathe out, release any stress or tension you're holding in your body. Let go of any doubts and worries you might have in your mind. Allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience. I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on the broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
Yeah. When we do the inner healing experience, I always wonder, is it release or release? Release or release? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? Is there a wrong way to release? Is there a wrong way to do the inner healing experience? Words are funny things. I was at the bank the other day and I said, I have a question about my account. And the teller said, withdrawal? And I said, oh, sorry. I'm like, I have a question about my account. That's dumb, isn't it? Okay, enough already. Let's get serious. Let's talk about Ralph Waldo Emerson. Would you like to do that? Actually, yeah? Brian's making his way, eyeing possible exits. Last week I asked if anyone would like to see the series extended into August, because there are 4 essays I'm working on this month, and he had many, you know. And 3 people said, yes, continue it into August, and nobody said, oh, God, please no. So we're going to do that. And it'll be a deep dive into essays like love and worship and compensation and some others, and maybe some of his other writings too, besides his actual essays. But today, I got to tell you, today is my favorite of his essays. I know that's really important to you, that you should know that this is like, because they're all great, but this is the one that just ties them all up with a bow, and it's called The Oversoul. The Oversoul, okay? He got a lot of material from Eastern religion. He read the Bhagavad Gita. He read a translation of the Vedas, and we're talking here in the 1830s, 1840s. These books were not easy to come by, even for scholars. And it made a pathway in Vedanta, in the study of the Vedas that's a part of Hinduism. One of the pathways in that study is called Advaita, Advaita, Advaita Vedanta, and what it discusses, what it describes, is the ubiquity of the divine, okay? That the divine presence is found within everything, and not everything knows it. Not everything is what they call sentient. Not everything is self-aware, but the divine presence is still fully there. It's just not responded to in the way that a human can, for example, by being aware, by becoming aware of there's a presence, there's a power, having faith, having belief, and having experience in faith and belief, where the faith and belief is rewarded and it's realized, and then it builds on itself. It reinforces itself going forward. This is why we teach this form of prayer that's affirmative, and we say, now go try it. Don't leave it just as a theoretical thing. Go try it in the world and see if your life is not better. And somebody asked me recently, they said, do we always get what we pray for? Do we always get what we treat about? And the term we use here is demonstration or manifestation as a rule. It's not a lockstep kind of thing, but there it is. Do we always demonstrate after the intention of our treatment? And I said, no. Do you? I mean, look. But something happens. And I've never known anyone to treat who didn't have a better life afterward. I've never known it to not improve things somehow. But the universe and the oversoul aspect of it is not a vending machine. Okay? We'd like it to be. That would simplify things greatly. But we've learned by now, as have all humans, that it just doesn't operate that way. Sometimes you hit the jackpot, but most of the time you just learn. Most of the time you just grow. Most of the time you just grow in compassion and self-awareness, and you find out that's really enough. And I really didn't need the big ticket items that I thought I did in order to fulfill my divine destiny, you know. So we learn through experience as we pray and as we go, and this idea of the divine presence being within. And as I say, not everyone is aware, not everything is aware. The chair you're sitting in is not probably aware of this, although we don't know because we haven't developed a way to really communicate with it. So who knows what the thing knows? But we will make the assumption that what we call inanimate objects really are inanimate objects, but we know that we know that we know. We know that we know. And we know when we know, and we know when we don't know. And where I'm going with this is that when we don't know, we hurt. We hurt. We yearn. We hope. And I was sitting there thinking during that song, that's kind of a yearning song, the song you just did. It's like, wouldn't it be great if, why can't we all just get along and have a better world? And where is that coming from? Well, it's coming from a vision that the artist had that such a thing is possible. And then wrote in the lyrics, that's not a complete prescription for how it all happens, because that would like go on forever. Well, you need to forgive, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, and, right? It's a song. It's a 3-minute song. But in the 3-minute song, a picture is painted of a possibility of how things could look. And I got to thinking while you were singing it, and hello to Cole, that a lot of what we do on musically up here is a yearning song. Sometimes it's a celebration, sometimes, but many times it's a. I was thinking of like Rainbow Connection, you know, the Kermit the Frog song, and one day we'll find it, the Rainbow Connection. What is it? What is it? I can't quote the lyrics from memory, but you probably can. You know, what is it that keeps us stargazing? The lovers, the dreamers, and me. Yeah, we've heard. What is it? We've heard a voice. We've heard a distant voice or something like that. See, that's that yearning idea. So it's now time to bring Emerson into this conversation, where he says, what is the ground of this uneasiness of ours, of this old discontent? What is the universal sense of want and ignorance? But the true innuendo by which the great soul makes its enormous claim. Okay? The true innuendo by which the great soul, capital S, makes its universal claim. It makes its claim on us by or through our discontent with life as it stands. Even if life as it stands is pretty okay. And we have friends, and we have family, and we have our health, and we have enough money in our pocket, and that kind of thing. And we go down the list of the things that we think we ought to have, and we have most of them, or we know where to go get them. And still it's not enough. Still there's this aching heart. That's what drives people to spirituality. And sometimes it drives to religion, too. but it's definitely what drives people to spirituality, is seeking a context in which to hold their lives. And as they look for that, what they discover is that the context is so paradoxical, so enormous. He calls it the enormous claim the soul makes, the great soul. It claims your entire being. Everything you've ever been, are now, and could ever hope to be. The body you wear, the emotions that you have, and the part of you that travels throughout eternity. It's all there. Almost 40 years ago, we'll have to have a party. Actually, it will be 40 this October when the study group started of creative life. So it's, right at going on 40 years ago. There were 2, 3, 4 of us sitting around a kitchen table, plotting, as young people do, plotting the takeover of the world. We're going to form a spiritual center. We're going to transform the consciousness of all humankind, one voice at a time. And here we are still doing it. What do you know? We read in the Science of Mind textbook. We started a class. It had some assignments and stuff. And at some point, one of the students said, I've never forgotten this, obviously. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Talking about this, the science of mind. You know, in those days, we didn't even pass a hat. You didn't have to come up with money. You didn't have to fill out a membership card. You didn't have to do anything. And I'm thinking, what about this is hard? You know, because I'd forgotten my own journey. I sublimated under, I'm a leader now, you know how you do this, right? And this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And so I asked this person, what about it is hard, thinking, how can we make it easier? And they said, it takes all you've got. And I was like, you know, yeah, it really does. It takes all you've got. Every thought is a prayer. Every feeling matters. Everything adds up. Every action that we undertake, every intention that we visit, you know, and contemplate, all of this adds up into this package called consciousness. It can be a daunting kind of thing. But for the fact that back of us all is the universal soul that's never seen anything wrong, never known anything wrong with its creation. It's never known anything wrong with you. Never seen anything wrong with you. It's never watched what you were doing and shed a tear because you were so stupid and intractable and, gosh, I just wish you'd see the light. And no, that's not how it doesn't separate itself from you. It exalts itself in you. That's what the oversoul does. And so we sense, in response to this longing, we submit to the idea that there's a power, as he said in last week's reading, there's a power greater than the will I call my own. At every moment, I am constrained to admit and submit to a power greater than that which I call my own. And submission is a term we're not real comfortable with in New Thought metaphysics. It's like, I'm not submitting to anything. You know, I'm going to do it my way and push through, and the power of will. And well, he comes to that. He says the blindness of the ego begins when it would be something of itself. And every time I read that, I have to sit down and just kind of be with that. The blindness, actually he calls it the intellect, but I hear it as ego. It's the same thing. When the intellect, when the ego thinks of itself as being something of itself, as being the mastermind, as being the bridge of the enterprise up here, right, where the captain sits in the swivel chair, right, you know, flying this thing. When the ego thinks that it's in charge, the voyage is doomed. The voyage is doomed. And we find this out, don't we? We push our will, we push our way, we think we have all the answers, and we're wrong. And we find out that we're wrong after a while. Sometimes immediately, but more usually it takes a while. which enables us then to build on the ego's fascination with itself incrementally, so we fall from a higher place with a harder landing when the ego gives way. Whereas, so what are we saying? Stamp out the ego? Well, that's, some metaphysical teachings actually posit that. So go completely ego-less, go completely ego-free. I'm not sure that's possible. I'm not sure it's healthy. It's not what I advocate. If you want to do it, go right ahead. But, you know, instead, I think, have a conversation with the ego and say, look, there's stuff you can't do. Have a conversation with the ego the way you'd have a conversation with a friend who tries to do things that they don't know how to do, and they're putting themselves in danger. If they pick up a guitar and they don't know how to play it, it's no harm, no foul. But if they're flying a plane over a neighborhood, you know, and they don't know how to do it, have a conversation with it. Say, you're imperiling yourself and others here. Have a conversation with the ego like that and say, look, there's stuff we don't know how to do, you and I. My interior awareness of things, and you being the driving force behind how I move forward, relax and let go and trust a higher power. Here's a short test on how your ego, how free and comfortable it feels with relaxing and submitting to the idea of a higher power. Try to meditate. Try to meditate. We've talked about this many times. And if the ego interrupts and it says, wait a minute, I don't like where this is going because I'm not in charge here, then that's the time to have the conversation with it and say, look, kind of in a catechism, you know, who created you? Who made you? Did you create yourself? Ego, did you create yourself? Did you make all this up? Did you make up this whole world? Did you create this body? You even know what to do to keep it going? And the ego will admit, no, there's an awful lot I trust. I trust there's going to be air in the room when, you know, I go to breathe and so on. And so gradually you can talk the ego into cooperation, co-creation, conscious participation with the power that's greater than we are. Every time we treat and we say this or something greater, we're admitting the existence of a greater power. This or something greater, that I have no clue what it is or could be, but I know that it's there. And Emerson says that we make reference, he says we make tacit reference to this in every conversation. When you and I have a conversation, two people are standing there, he says tacit reference is made as to a third party. And that third party is their common nature. That third party is the oversoul's intention, that you simply be and express, be in sincerity. You don't have to be joyful. You don't have to be this. You know, there's no one right way to do it, but you do have to be. And how do you know that? Because you showed up. Because you showed up in consciousness. And so when you and I discuss something, he says when the conversation is of a higher nature, something shines through us. When the conversation is sincere, when the conversation, in other words, not silly, you know, or disputatious or gossipy or crude or something like that, but when the conversation is sincere and intentional between people, something shines through into form. And he said it shines through in such a way as that we come to realize that the light that is behind us and the light that is from within us is all there is. That we, absent that light, are nothing. Absent that light are nothing. In other words, unplugged from our divine source consciously, we evaporate. It's not possible to fully unplug. You can't, you know, we signed up to be, and that doesn't mean just be here wearing this and so on. It means we signed up for a trip to eternity as individuated souls. It's a belief of this teaching anyway, and whatever you want to believe is fine, but, you know, that We're going to build on what we have here. We're going to grow and so on. So we can't ever detach ourselves fully from the divine nature. But we can pretend to with such force that we create a mirage of experience that makes it appear that we succeeded. Does that make sense? Okay? There's air in this room, and it's good to breathe, and you could hold your breath and sit there and turn blue and gradually slide off your chair, and we'd revive you. Actually, you'd revive yourself, because unless you hit your head or something, because you'd start breathing again at some point, But you could create a very vivid outpicturing of the possibility that there was no oxygen for you. We know we can do this with love and friendship. We can wall ourselves up, say there are no people around who understand me. There are no people around I trust here, and we can get all beady-eyed and suspicious about things in the middle of this banquet of life filled with these beautiful others. We can do all kinds of things, and we can make our bodies sick, through our thinking, as well as heal them. So we can move things around, but we never detach fully from the divine source, this oversoul. So how do we experience the oversoul? Well, a theme of Emerson, in every bit of his spiritual writing, and he wrote on lots of stuff, politics and all the rest of this, and journals and letters, and he had a family tragedies many times over in his life. He dealt with grief a great deal. But in talking on spiritual matters, he said, how do we know this? How do we know any of this is true? How do we know that there's an oversoul? This is through direct experience. You go to the thing. You go, as Jesus said, into the closet and pray. You go into the silence. You go away from the noise of the marketplace, and you sit there and you say, and I keep quoting Voltaire on this. I think it was Voltaire who said, or maybe it was Sartre, I don't remember. They'll find it. It said, "Oh God, if there is a God, oh God, if there is a God, save my soul if I have a soul." It's called hedging your bets. But we go into the stillness and we talk to it and we say, "Show me who I am. Here I am. What do I have to do? Show me who I am. If there is a power greater than the will I call my own, as my friend Emerson tells me there is, show it to me. What I have to do, how I know to feel this, and something will happen." And just like with the demonstration of any treatment, it may happen right in that moment, and the scales fall from your eyes, as Paul said, and you're reborn. Or it may happen later that day, or the next week, or the next month. Or it may never seem to happen until you realize, I have a whole new context for my life, and at some point, I started believing. Do you know when you started knowing something? Probably not. Okay? Unless it was big dramatic news that somebody came to and they said, "Brian, have you heard that?" And Brian will be like, "I'll never forget where I was when he told me that." And okay, there are moments like that in life, but not many. Most of the time it's we pick up information, we're like, "Oh, that's interesting, that's interesting. Oh, what do you know there?" And we forget we know it. And a month or a year or 10 years later, it comes up in conversation about such, and all of a sudden we have this little nugget of awareness that we're kind of a mini expert on the subject because we learned something, or we learn it and we studied more, but we don't know the moment. It's just like you don't know the moment when a pain leaves your body as a rule. You know the moment you start hurting, but when the pain's gone, it's like, how do you feel? "Oh yeah, I'm fine, thanks." I didn't mark the precise moment when that occurred. So it may not happen that you have this. See, we made a big deal out of Paul, in the conversion experience on the road to Damascus, and so he's blinded by the light, and he was out of it, 3 days? I think he was blind. He was staying in somebody's house and caring for him, and so we think, well, that's what's got to happen. I've got to have the mark on my forehead, branded with this new. That's not how it happens. It creeps in. It creeps in as a new context creeps in. It creeps in the way that, like, you cross the threshold from adolescence through adulthood. Yeah, everyone here did. Do you remember that precise moment? No, of course not. It was just suddenly there became a different context to your life. And so that's what we should expect, because we're coming home to our true nature. We're coming home to the essence of who we really are, rather than pretending to be. So Emerson says, when this happens to you, as this is occurring to you, you speak with a depth and a sincerity that was not present before. You choose to be, as we talked about last week, and not seem. We're not seeming to be something for the purpose of other people's approval or to achieve power. We're being in the moment, and we're trusting, and we're listening. And the last point that he made in this, and I really encourage you to read this, because I'm leaving an awful lot out due to the constraints of time, respect for your time. But read Emerson also, because I don't want you to come away with my interpretation of Emerson as a new doctrine for you. Because he said, and I quote frequently, the faith that stands on authority is not faith. The faith that stands on authority is not faith. And an authority-based faith marks the decline of religion and the withdrawal of the soul. So when somebody tells you, even a teaching like this one, as progressive and open-minded and welcoming as we are, nobody's in your business, nobody's in your face about your personal behavior or any of this kind of thing. You don't even have to agree with anything that we teach here to be welcome here. It's like, how much easier could we make this than we do? Yet, still, there is a tendency sometimes for us to think, well, Ernest Holmes said it, therefore it must be true. No, it's not true because Ernest Holmes said it. It's not true because Jesus the Christ said it. It's not true because Buddha said it. It's not true because anybody said it. It's true to them because they felt it and had to say it. And had to say it. And they said it to you and they said it to me, with a message attached that's 2 words. Go look. Go look. Right? Like you would do. Okay? The other day, Lisa put a thing on our Facebook page of a rainbow. It was a horizontal rainbow over this property she was driving by, and there's a rainbow. I think it was this property. It was somewhere in the neighborhood, And it's like, Lisa didn't put that up as an authority on rainbows, or she didn't put that up as this is the greatest rainbow ever, or she didn't. You know what? The inference there was, go look out your window. Go stand outside the next time it rains and the sun's out and see what you see. And what do you take away from that, Is go see. Go talk to the God of your understanding and ask it what you need to know more desperately than anything else. You can ask it for money, and you can ask it for friends, and you can ask it for sales leads and that kind of stuff, and that's not a sin, but you won't come away fulfilled. It's like having a whole, I just made this up, but it's like having a whole buffet in front of you, and all you eat are, the olives or something, right? Or even the deviled eggs, as good as deviled eggs are, but there's like this whole massive spread of stuff here, and that's all you take, is go to this thing and say, show me who I am, and how can I live in a greater way? And when all is said and done, you know what he brings it back to? To absolutely wrap up, this is like the last line in the essay. He says, we want to know what service we can render. I just love that. I just love that. What service we can render. Not like, what's in it for me? Okay? How can I know the mystic secrets of the ages and use them to, right, in this Rasputin kind of, no. How can I render greater service? How can I be a better human? How can I be, right, like the song was just saying. How can I be more kind? How can I be more peaceful? How can I? So I encourage you to read. If you don't read all of Emerson's essays, read but one, The Oversoul. Keep a dictionary handy. He was highly educated and 200 almost years ago and stuff, and so yeah, you'll pick up some new words and things, but most of it is written like it could have been written yesterday, you know, and especially after you read it. After you read it, get real still. Get real still and say, so I like this idea. It appeals to me that there's such a thing as an oversoul. Now I want to know for sure. So I'm going to go see it with my own eyes. So let's know together now there is one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere radiant, everywhere majestic on this beautiful, really hot day. And we're going to own it and call it really hot. Sometimes we euphemize it and we say, oh, it's a nice warm summer day. No, it's hot. It's really hot. It's hot here and it's even hotter some other places. And so we're going to extend our knowing that into those places comes a cool breeze, comes a cool drink, comes cool shade, comes whatever anyone needs, wherever people on this planet suffer. We are going to render a service now. It's not a service through our hands at this moment. It doesn't require great arduous exertion of us at this moment. It's just a common peaceful knowing that there is one life, one power, one presence, and all of us are expressing it. All of us are in it together. And we have an indestructible connection between one another. Those whom we know and those whom we'll never meet on this planet. All 8 billion and counting of us now. Part of one human family. Part of one family of life, along with all other living things. Part of one family of expression, along with all inanimate things. Every atom that dances, every star, every cloud, every rock, express the life of this one. And all we're asked to do really is trust. Put one foot in front of the other, moving forward, trusting that this power has us. It has us. It tells us what we need to know, so we get good and quiet and we listen. And then we act. For this knowing, for the actions that stream forth from it, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
Raise your hand if you are. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy, your love and support, and thank you for your monetary donations. Whatever you give to this center, no matter how big or how small, we are so appreciative of it because it's because of what you give to us that we can be here and giving back to you. With that, I'd like to invite you all to say with me now, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
All right, let's get into this. But what I am going to say is if you're watching this on YouTube, you didn't get to hear the song. It's from the play Shenandoah, okay, about freedom.
Yeah.
So I'm referencing it now so that you can go look it up, about freedom being a state of mind. I want to remind you that heaven is the same thing. Heaven is a state of mind. It is a state of consciousness. And once you learn to create it for yourself, one, nobody can take it away from you. And two, heaven ceases to be a place that you have to get to, but can become any place that you are. Freedom is a state of mind. Heaven is a state of mind. So in that knowing, walk with me into the consciously sacred. Because it's all sacred all the time. I'm just inviting you to consciously go there. There is one life, one power, one presence, one love. We live that life. We are that presence. And that power and that love flows through us. When we consciously open up to it, amazing things happen. When we accept the oversoul and recognize that we are part of something so much greater, amazing things happen. What is it that is getting close to harvest in your life? Because we are coming up on Lunasa, first harvest. What is ripening in you? What needs a little extra love? What needs a little extra presence? Know that you are a divine channel, bringing it into your own life. And when you look around the room, every single eye that you meet is also that divine channel. Look into the eyes of God every moment of every day and watch amazing things happen. And so I am knowing this knowingness. I am knowing this oversoul. I am knowing this presence. I am knowing this love for each and every one of you. That it flows through you, washing you clean, healing behind it, healing in front of it, healing all around. And I am grateful to know this presence. I am grateful to look into the eyes of God. I am grateful to look into your eyes. And I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me this. And I am grateful for this community, for this place where we come to hear who we truly are. I am grateful for our ministers, our practitioners, our musicians. I am grateful for the technology that allows us to send this out into the ethers. And I am grateful, because gratitude is another word for love. And I relax into this knowing, and I release it into love and law. And so it is.
Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it. And I love it. And so it is.